Hi, everyone. It's Lynn from Devine Central. Today, I am back to finish up a video from last week called Conflicting Energies in the Celtic Cross. Now, this whole idea came from a comment from a viewer on my video from the week before, which was tarot spreads require action. Okay, so you can go back and look at it if you want to, but she felt, or he felt, that my approach was a little too simplistic and that I should tackle something a little more challenging, like how do you deal with a card that comes up in a position that is opposite of that card? So, for example, having the Ten of Swords come up as the outcome, or having the Ace of Cups come up as something bad, right? Or something negative. So it's like, okay, so I did the cross last week. Let's come back this week and finish the staff. And I want to pull some random Celtic cross spreads and let's just see if we can come up with some of those conflicts on the fly. Okay, let me change cameras. Okay, here we go. We did the cross last week. Let's continue on with our staff. And of course, for me, I have my own idea of the positions, and you can find that in my video, The Celtic Cross is Not Hard, where I lay that out. Also, we are going to continue on with the question that we had from last week, which is, how does my love life look this year? And of course, I pulled that out of my trusty little bag of 600 questions for your tarot practice. And you can find this on my webs or on my Etsy page. I'll put it down below. Okay, let's see where we go with these. And of course, I have pre-pulled cards as examples because I wanted to stay on point, right? Okay, so my number 7 is, how can you sabotage the situation, right? How can you make this situation worse? Because I do not read reversals typically, my number 2, my crossing card, is an obstacle, and basically so is my card number 7. Those are my shadow. They all have shadows. They all have upright, they all have reversal meanings, but for me, this highlights those. So I guess I'm talking about specific actions or attitudes, or maybe even blind spots that could undermine the querent's love life, because right, that's what we're talking about. So this is a fantastic position right here for conflicting energies because it deals with actions that actually harm the situation, right? So getting a card that traditionally would signify help or balance or joy or success placed in a position of sabotage, well, that indicates a problematic extreme, right? Or an unexpected pitfall, something like that. So in this position, what if we got the star? It stands for hope and for healing, right? And how can hope be damaging in any way? Well, it might suggest unrealistic optimism. So let's say you're too hopeful without taking any action. It's like waiting for divine intervention rather than putting in any effort to, change or fix your situation. Or you could be so focused on an idealized future that you just ignore the red flags. It can be sabotaging by being too detached, or let's just call it above the messy reality of love. What about the Empress? She represents nurturing and abundance and creativity and sensuality, and of course, fertility, right? So if this is how you sabotage yourself, maybe it implies that you're being too much of these positive things, and that's what's becoming the problem. Maybe you're smothering your partner with too much nurturing. Maybe it's like being overly giving. That's kind of the point. Now, what about temperance? It represents balance, moderation, patience, and of course, to me, middle ground. So, how can balance sabotage? Well, maybe you're over compromising, or maybe you have a lack of good boundaries. It's a form of sabotage by never taking a strong stand or allowing for healthy emotional intensity to come in and flavor this relationship or the one that's coming. The world in this position of how can you sabotage? Gee, that signifies completion and fulfillment and, well, ultimate success. So, how can that be a saboteur? It might be sabotaging your relationship out of fear of success, maybe, or fear of commitment. That's always possible. Or you could be taking things for granted by becoming too complacent once a significant milestone has been reached, like you moved in together, right? Oh, okay, now we don't have to, we can get comfortable now. We don't have to move on to the marriage or beyond that. You just get stagnant or stale right where you are. Finally, what about the Two of Cups? Now, this represents mutual attraction, a deep connection, or a deep bond between two people. So, as I mentioned in the last video, it could signify sabotaging through codependency. The bond becomes so strong that individuals they lose their sense of self, or personal boundaries dissolve, or connections outside the relationship just kind of get neglected. The very strength of this union, if not balanced, can ultimately harm the relationship. So, too much of a good thing? I think not. Conflicting cards in position 7 aren't obvious destructive behaviors. They are more like positive traits that have been taken to an extreme. So it's a good way to reveal subtle sabotaging patterns in either yourself or your querent. Okay, so let's look at number 8, the environment over which you have no control. Now, I think this one is the most insightful for demonstrating this concept, and here's why. The conflict isn't positive versus negative. This is more about control versus not in control. So for this position, the conflict arises when a card that speaks of personal agency or control or influence lands in a spot designated for things that are basically outside the querent's control. So the very thing that you perceive as being out of your hands is actually being presented by a card that shouts, "You have power here." So, for example, the Magician. Okay. Or what about the Chariot? Or even the Emperor? They all scream serious conflict with this position, right? These are cards that are all about exercising control. Is the uncontrollable environment truly external, or is it a reflection of the querent's own unacknowledged power, maybe? Maybe their lack of agency is showing. Maybe they're projecting their insecurities to the outside world. Or maybe they're expecting someone else to jump in and take control and save them. It also points to a crucial blind spot where the querent feels powerless, but the universe, via these cards, is saying, actually, the key to navigating this uncontrollable situation lies within your own capacity to take charge of it. So there's a learning opportunity here. It's the kind of conflict that forces us as readers and the querent too to look at a lot deeper than just surface interpretations of the cards. So let's look at number 9 next. For me, number 9 represents guidance from a higher source. That could be God. It could be your spirit guides. It could be your own intuition, your inner knowing. It's meant to offer a clear direction on your love life for the year. Okay. So conflicting energy here would inherently suggest a lack of clarity, right? Or possibly deception, or a call to totally disregard any external advice in favor of just, your own internal introspection. So the conflict isn't necessarily that the advice is bad, but that the nature of it clashes with the expectation of a clear, helpful spiritual guide. So obviously the moon, right? Illusion and deception and, hidden fears, maybe confusion. We rely a lot on our intuition, and maybe it's clouded. So if this is supposed to be the advice from spirit, then the guidance that you're receiving is unclear. And haven't you, as a professional reader, ever gotten that? I got that just yesterday at my reading table. It's like, okay, so your future, it's unclear. And there's a reason why it's unclear. It's unclear because it hasn't, a decision on which direction you're making in some area of your life has not been decided, because until it's decided, it could go either way. So it's unclear, and spirit can't always give us that. And I think that's real important for you to know. It's shrouded in mystery, or it needs to be deeply questioned in some way. It just tells us that the advice itself is confusing. Okay. Now we find the same thing, with the Seven of Cups. It signifies wishful thinking or maybe overwhelming choices. How about a lack of grounding in reality? If this is advice from spirit, then it implies that the guidance is not practical or clear, but rather the reflection of your own fantasies or unrealistic expectations in the situation. You are being lost by too many ill-defined possibilities in your love life. The advice that offers no real direction, only a myriad of confusing, ungrounded options, is pretty much no advice at all, right? Okay, so again, I would handle this situation by first being clear with the querent. I would let them know, that the advice is just too foggy. It can't provide really good advice for you. Then let's either look at the other cards around or pull a clarifier. Hopefully, later in this video, we'll have a chance to do something like that. Okay, what about the tower? Okay, it signifies sudden upheaval and chaos. And while it can lead to breakthroughs for sure, as advice from spirit, I just find that it's too much shock and awe to be helpful. It's advice that indicates a necessary but intensely disruptive ending, and that conflicts with gentle, comforting advice that, we hope to get from spirit. Now, I have videos out there on how to reframe negative cards. If reversed, let's say, it might suggest that you avoid the collapse, and that could still be very dramatic, I don't know, advice, and I don't like it. I would rather just assume that it's like, hey, this is just, something has to happen here. Something has to be broken down before you can get your clear advice. Let's look at the Seven of Swords, right? Deception, sneaky behavior, evasion, just taking things without permission. We are constantly on the lookout for the querent's highest good, are we not? And this suggests that the spiritual guidance is to be less than honest, or to cut corners, or to disengage strategically in their love life. Gosh, I don't think so. This directly conflicts with the notion of that wise, ethical, and clear guidance from our higher source. It's just wrong, right? So it's unclear. I guess it could imply that, I don't know, maybe I guess it could imply a need for protecting yourself by being cautious of other people's motives, or it might just be a warning that you're deceiving yourself in some way, which is still problematic. So you got to ask yourself, is the guidance really unclear, or are you misrepresenting it? You got to look at the other cards to determine. Sometimes the universe's advice isn't what we want to hear, or it comes in unexpected forms like disruption, right? Next and last is position number 10. It is the potential outcome. Now, I have had to decide whether or not this is based on following the advice and this is where you're going, or is it if you continue on your current path? I have discovered that because you do not always get good cards in this position, I have had to make the choice of this is the final outcome if you continue on your current path and you do not make changes. Because if the Ten of Swords comes up in this position, which I've had it do on more than one occasion, it's like, yay, look at this. You do not have a positive outcome on your current path. And you are so lucky because you get to know in advance and make changes to avoid it. So that's why I've chosen the path that I have. So this is the likely result if you don't heed the advice or address the challenges presented in the preceding cards, especially number 2 and number 7, right? Oh, and number 9. Okay, so let's put the star back up there, okay? Let's say that the star of healing and hope and inspiration and renewal. Let's say this is the potential outcome of not following the advice or addressing sabotage. Then it becomes a conflict, right? So, how can continued inaction or self-sabotage lead to such a positive and hopeful result? It might suggest that despite your current path, an external force of healing or inspiration is so strong that it'll enter your love life regardless of what you do, right? Or it could simply imply delusional optimism, that you believe everything will turn out well, even if you do nothing. Oh my God, how many people do we know do that? How many clients? They come, they get all this advice, they ask a lot of questions, and then they go home and they do nothing. One of my favorite things when people come to me and they ask me, is there going to be love in my life again? And this is like in their 60s and 70s and or even younger girls actually. But I ask them, what are they doing? What are they doing to get out and find it? And they're saying, well, they're not. And I said, well, then you're doomed to be falling in love with the plumber or the pizza delivery guy, because if you never leave your house, you're not going to get any action, right? So that kind of has to go with that. All right, let's get back to this. This could just be a stubborn refusal to face reality. Okay, that's what that might be. And you'll have to look at the other cards for that. Now, what about the world? I think the world was down here too. Yeah. What about the world? If that lands in that position, completion, fulfillment, ultimate success. Wow. If this is the outcome for ignoring guidance and continuing on a potentially flawed path, well, this is another problem, right? Okay. So this could point to just a surface level success, right? An outcome that appears complete and fulfilling, but really lacks any true depth. So in other words, you might be successful at finding love, but it may very well be short-lived. Now, another thing, what about the fool? The fool ends up there. Hey, you've got new beginnings, a new journey coming. Yay, you're going to get a soft landing from the universe. Yeah, well, maybe so. But it could also indicate that your current path will lead you to a point where everything constantly resets. You simply just end up back at square one, and you've learned nothing in the process. It suggests that maybe an outcome of perpetual new beginnings without any progress. So you're constantly meeting new men, meeting them, meeting them, meeting them, and they just never turn into anything. That's not what you want. Kind of a, anticlimactic ending, right? But again, it's based on, everything else here. So next, let's look at the Four of Swords. So this card is about rest and recuperation, right? Withdrawal. I call it mental peace. So if this is the potential outcome of continuing without change, it pretty much suggests that you're going to go into a period of stagnation, doesn't it? You're not going to find what you're looking for because you're not doing anything. You're not heeding any of the advice. You're not dealing with any of the challenges in your life to make it happen. And finally, we have the wheel. Now, this is about cycles and destiny and turning points. It can also be about fate. But as a potential outcome, if you don't start making changes, there is no final outcome. You will simply re-enter old cycles, and everything is just like the other one. It's just going to keep recurring over and over. We do not learn lessons by staying on the wheel. And that's one of the things that the Wheel of Fortune really does promote for us is you are doomed to repeat your mistakes over and over if you do not learn from them. So despite warnings, the path's just going to lead you back to the same familiar ups and downs and repetition of all the past lessons in your love life. And that conflicts with the idea of a progressive outcome, suggesting that, well, without conscious intervention, you're just destined to repeat history, right? Okay, I said that twice. Sorry. All right, so let's now pull some cards and let's see where we're going with this. Okay. Okay. Again, out of these trusty cards, we'll just pull a few. I found one I liked. I found one I liked earlier, and I just wanted to lay it out. It says, "Why haven't I met the one?" Isn't that a great one? Isn't that great? Look there. Oh, it says, "Oh, come on." Nope, doesn't want to do it. All right. Why haven't I met the one? I kind of like that. Okay. So let's see what we've got here. Okay. Oh, Ice Queen. That explains some of it, right? All right. All right. We have the Ace of Swords as our crossing card, Seven of Wands as our foundation. How did we get here? Okay. Two of Wands, energy that's passing, strength as what's on our mind. Oh, and the future. There's all this happy stuff, right? All this happy stuff. Okay. Then we have advice from spirit. That's what I call it. Okay. All right. So let's take a look and see what we have here. Oh, why haven't I met the one? Well, for one thing, you're being too cold and you're being too calculating. And, the Queen of Swords is somebody who would rather talk, business than the affairs of the heart. And, you're just, you're not, you're putting off that vibe, that energy that is just not real positive for love anyway. You're just too strict and you're too by the rules and it's kind of off-putting, right? Okay. So what do we have and where does that come from? It comes from being very defensive, right? And that shows, your aura puts that out to people. It's kind of like a radar. People pick up on that. Being defensive, being cold just doesn't work for you. And the energy that's passing, I know you've done some planning, right? But the planning, for whatever reason, that should be what you're doing now, right? So that doesn't really interfere too bad, but you've done some planning, you've looked, but you're not really doing that anymore. You're not really making that effort and putting your energy out there to do it. So what's on your mind? We have strength. Strength will endure. You just think that you're going to keep plugging away in the same direction that you're going without making without softening up or making any plans. I mean, you're not looking to see what other people want. What you're looking for is how you're going to plow through the situation and find what you want. And what's crossing? What is the crossing card? There you go. What's the crossing card, or what is the obstacle for you? It's finding the truth, right? Because that's how you got to start. You got to start with your true self, who you really are. And it's not been working for you. But yet, in the future, we're going to find this wonderful, loving, caring relationship with somebody, and all is going to work out well. So that kind of conflicts, does it not, with what's going on here? Because how on earth is she going to get that if she doesn't fix or change some of these things? So, how can she sabotage the situation? How can she make it worse than it already is? Well, it's not about that. It's about, it's about it's fixing and changing and, it's trying to find the essence of who she is, right? Not trying to do all kinds of different, funky things to try to draw attention to herself. It's plotting and planning. Sometimes we just have to sit back and be ourselves and quit trying to work at it, I think is more what this is saying. Her environment over which she has no control, there is somebody in her life. There is somebody there around her that's probably already there. And that conflicts with the fact that she's still looking, right, for somebody. This isn't the greatest one, but I'm trying to come up with something. Oh, I'm sorry. This was the one. Okay. So what is the advice from spirit? In order to find harmony, it's a Six of Swords, right? In order to find harmony, you might have to leave your current situation and move on and find other ways of dealing with it instead of trying to plot and plan and which is all these planning cards because it's not working. But if you continue on your current direction and you don't make an effort to soften up and maybe change direction, maybe find different places to look for people, you're just going to be hanging there, right? You're going to be hanging there. This should lead you. But this potential outcome, if you follow your current direction, is absolutely conflicting with the fact that over the next 3 to 6 months, the energy that's coming in is a loving, caring relationship. So if you can't soften up, if you can't bring your true self to this relationship, then it's just gonna hang. It's just an idea. Okay. What's the last word from spirit? There's a man there if we let him. And honestly, that's somebody that is, he's not super romantic, but the King of Pentacles, he'll buy you a house. Okay. All right. So let's try something else. Okay, let's see. Okay. All right. I'm just gonna, well, let's say, yeah, we'll shuffle these cards in and see if we can maybe not get the same ones. Okay. I am using, by the way, through these whole two videos, I have been using the Everyday Witch. This and Anna Kay tend to be my favorites. I do like pictorial decks. I do have and occasionally use Marseille decks, but because I like to include clients in with my readings, I want it to be a conversation. I like the pictorial cards because it draws them in and helps them participate. Okay. Oh, let's pick something here. What do I need to know about the situation with a family member? Okay, whatever, we'll use that one. Haven't met the one we did that one. Will I find success in my business? That might be an easier one. Okay, Harrison wants to know, will I find success in my business? Okay, let's do it. Let's see what comes out of this one, right? Okay, so anytime that a court card comes up in the subject position, to me, and number 10, it's always a person. So I'm looking at this, and it could be him or it could be somebody else, right? So there's a king. We have planning, right? The Two of Wands shows back up. Ooh, we have the devil as our foundation. We have the Nine of Pentacles as our what the energy that's leaving. What's on your mind? Somebody's not feeling it. And then we have, oh my gosh, then we have, oh, this is turning out to be interesting. We have the Six of Pentacles as the energy that's moving in. Okay. Let's then take a look at the messages from Spirit. Okay. So look, well, I'll tell you what, you are in, this could be a toxic environment that you're in. It could be a partner. I see this as probably a partner. He comes across, he's very caring, he's very nice, he's offered to participate and help you out, right? Probably financially. And what's happened is the Nine of Pentacles, right? This is the self card, self-confidence, self-resilience. This is being comfortable in your own skin, being successful in your own right, knowing where you're going, not needing anybody to help you. And the energy is leaving because from the past across the present to the future, we can see, like, wait a minute, here's the big conflict. How come you were so confident before and now you're not feeling it with the Four of Cups, right? That you're just, you've got your head down, you're not feeling it. And look, in order for you to find success in your business, you're going to have to rely on somebody else. And while the King of Cups is a very caring and a very nurturing person, he also is kind of a manipulator. And he can manipulate your feelings and kind of make you feel like you're less than the person that you are. And that's kind of costing you some of your confidence, right? So, what is blocking you? What is the obstacle in this whole thing? And that's planning, having a plan. Because right now you're not really having a plan. And the plan might have to include in having somebody else's money to help you make that success. And I don't think you want that. I think you want to be successful in your own right. If this were you in this when will I find success in my business? It's going to be after somebody infuses money in it, after somebody helps you out. Hey, yay, you're going to be successful. Ooh, boo, you're not going to do it on your own. You're going to have to rely on somebody else for it. And that somebody, you know, it's hard for you to do that. Planning for that has been difficult for you. That is your obstacle because obviously the foundation, sometime in the past, you've done that and it didn't work out for you. And you ended up being, bound to somebody that for a long time that you really didn't like. So maybe you've borrowed money before and it didn't work for you. So here's a great conflicting card. How can you sabotage the situation? Right? And you get this lovely 10 of cups. Oh my gosh. You know the first thing that comes to my mind? Don't borrow from family. Seriously. That's the first thing that came to my mind. How can you sabotage your situation? Borrowing from friends or family, always a hardship. Okay. The environment around you over which you have no control. Well, it seems that there is a strong connection. You can't get any stronger bond or emotional connection to anybody more so than the master of bonding and emotion. So it looks like you're bound to this guy, whether you like it or not. So maybe what you need to do is make the best of it. Does Spirit agree? Let's find out. Ooh. Spirit is saying, hold on to your money. I would be really careful at this point about who you get involved with. The Four of Cups tells us not only that you're not feeling it, but it's telling us that, maybe you're holding out for something better. Just because you're not interested in working with this guy or taking his money, it could just mean that you're waiting for something better to come along. And this confirms it. This is Spirit saying, yes, what you're thinking is right. It's correct. You should wait. Outcome? We get the Magician. Remember, the Magician came up before, right? Pulling a rabbit out of your hat. Is it the outcome of if you stay where you are? If you stay where you are, you're going to have to pull a rabbit out of your hat. You're going to have to do something. You're going to have to initiate something. That's the outcome. The outcome is if you're not going to accept his money and you're going to sit and you're going to wait and just use what you've got, then you're going to have to initiate something completely different. And right now, your biggest problem is you're not planning for it. Okay, that's your obstacle. Okay, let's try one more just to see what we got going. Okay. We'll just throw these in. Mix them up a little bit. I've learned how to riffle shuffle sideways because years and years and years of using a mouse has caused a lot of arthritis in my thumbs. This is just so much easier than trying to straddle the whole deck. So we're going to pull a card. Let's see. What does the next month look like for me? How about, because I want to stay Celtic Cross, is this the time to quit my day job and focus on doing what I love? Should we try that? Is this the time to quit my day job and focus on what I love? We get the Fool. What do you think of that? Isn't that amazing? Okay. The Fool is our subject. Is that not Spirit saying, yes, we're here. I'm working with you today? What crosses you? The Eight of Pentacles. Oh, that's the work. That's the day job. The day job is the obstacle to doing what you love. Oh my God, that's funny. Nine of Pentacles or nine of Cups. This is the foundation. What brought you to bring up this question? What brought you to my table in the first place? All your wishes come true card. You are looking for all your wishes to come true, right? And we've got the Sun that tells us that you've had clear sailing. It's been, it's obvious that this is what you want to do. Okay. And so now you can let go of that. You have it down, you know what you want to do. What's on your mind? The Ace of Cups, right? Something new and emotional that's just going to make you so happy. And that is just the thought. I shuffled these cards. You saw me. Wow, that's amazing, right? For this video. And then what's coming around the bend? What's the energy coming in after all of this amazing energy? Transformation, right? Something's got to end. Something has to end in order for you to have all these wonderful things. And what has to end is the one thing that's an obstacle standing in your way, and that's your day job. Okay? It has to end. So this is typically, oh, this is something great. This is what's coming. This is the energy. And this is something that is it's an inevitable end to something that is not pleasant. So something you're not and probably not expecting is going to happen when you try to quit your job. Okay. You're going to find out that your 401k that you thought you were going to cash in right away has a time limit of 6 or 8 months or a year on it, or a cash in period, which is 8 months away. And now what are you going to do about money now that accounted on it? Something inevitable is going to, if you want all this wonderful thing, you're going to have to go through some trial or tribulation to get it. And that kind of conflicts with what we've been seeing, right? Okay. So I should have done this already. Here's our advice from Spirit. So what can you do to sabotage your situation? We have the Four of Wands, right? You can start partying now, right? Party like it's 1999. Just assume that this is all going to happen. Start partying, start planning for it. Start taking your vacation days. It ain't over till it's over. And until you can bypass this obstacle, you're kind of be stuck where you are. So that kind of conflicts, right? It's what should you not do? What you should not do is have a big fat party. Okay. Your environment over which you have no control. This is a conscious decision to walk away from something that no longer is working for you. But that's not you. Or is it? Is this just something that you're sitting at your desk and you're looking out the window, or you're, cruising through, Temu or something. And you're seeing supplies of your favorite hobby, and is this all a dream, or is this really in your environment? Is this really something that you can do? And maybe we should set this aside with this card, these 2 8s, and maybe do another option spread on what will it look like if I leave my job right now? What will it look like if I leave because it's no longer working for me? And maybe that's a time to do something like that. Gosh, we should do that right now, because that's what I would do if I were at the table. Advice from Spirit. Do it the traditional way. Make sure you put in the 2-week notice. Make sure you check your 401k. Make sure that you understand your magic number. Have you hit it yet? Do you know where you are financially before you take off and do these things? This is about doing things the right way, putting everything in order. Okay. And doing it again the right way. And if you choose to ignore any of the advice, your potential outcome, if you just keep going the way you're going, is you're not leaving work, because this is the work card. You're going to be staying right where you are. And that's the opposite of what you wanted. What you wanted was to take off, right? So these two absolutely conflict. Because why? Because you can't get away from work. I think that's pretty cool. Advice from Spirit. You're going to get accolades from your job for what you're already doing. And maybe that's all you need. Maybe your dream is just wanting recognition for something that you do or love, or whatever it is, and you're not getting it. And maybe once you get it, maybe you won't want to leave. So I'm not sure if these spreads really hit the nail on the head or not. It's so hard to tell. You just don't know when they're going to come up. But I do have a video out there. I think I mentioned it earlier about taking bad cards, like the death card as the as the final outcome, or advice from spirit, would be the death card. Um, I think I have a video out there on reframing. I think it's called "Don't Put Lipstick on a Pig." So it's not sugarcoating, but learning how to reframe them. I'll put a link to that down below too. So anyway, that's that. If you have any comments, I welcome them open arms. Criticism, critical ones or not. I always think that we all have a different outlook on these cards, and I think that's what makes our community so wonderful. I am more than happy to do videos on things that you want me to do them on. So throw them in the comments and let's see where they go. All right, then. You have a terrific week or weekend whenever you're watching this, and I'll just see you on the next video. Bye-bye.